Welcome to the Words That Change Lives podcast, helping leaders, coaches, and small business owners to 10 times the impact of their message. Join us as we delve into the art of powerful language, enabling you to speak with unwavering honesty, communicate authentically, and create a lasting impression with every word. Is TEDx on your goal list? Do you have dreams of standing on that stage and sharing your idea word spreading? Well, for some people, it can feel like a dream that might not be real just yet, or might be too far away, or you might not even know how to make it happen. As you may or may not know, I have experience with TED. I'm a TEDx speaker. I've been a TEDx curator. I've done a lot of extensive work in this particular area. And some of the clients I help to create TEDx talk and to land TEDx talks. And this particular episode is dedicated to a TEDx journey. And that is my client, Tony Brooks. Tony is an experienced leadership psychologist. He's an author, a podcast host, and now a TEDx speaker. And he's recognized as an inspiring and impactful speaker on other stages on leadership mindset and survival psychology. He believes the number one problem facing leaders and indeed other people, us all, is mindset. And at the root of this is the impact of exaggerated, distorted, and imagined survival thinking. This is Tony's expert method, as I call it. And he has a number of keynotes and a TEDx talk focused on this particular subject. And the key areas of survival thinking that he explores are imposter syndrome, ego, defensive mindset, negative self-talk, and group behaviour. And I've been on the journey with Tony for it's about a year now. We have worked together to create a keynote talk around this specialist area of his expert method. And then he went on to land a TEDx gig, and I worked with him to create a talk around this particular subject. And in today's episode, we're exploring that, and I'm sharing Tony's journey and asking him questions that you might have if you want to land a TEDx talk yourself, so you can see what the process is like. And it is different for different people, but this is Tony's journey and Tony's story. Hello, Tony, and welcome to Words That Change Lives. It's really, really great to have you on.
Thank you for inviting me along, Helen.
So, Tony, this episode is called TEDx Journeys, and we have known each other for quite some time now, and we have worked together. And what I'd really love to do is to get your view and your experience of your journey to TEDx and what that actually looked like for you. So I think where I would like to start is, what inspired you to put TEDx on your goal list?
Yeah, I think there were 2 or 3 factors really for me. I think when I first started work with you, Helen, it was to improve the keynote I was doing. I talk on an area called survival psychology. We have done some really great work in structuring a talk. And what I wanted to do was bring together my thinking in a cohesive way in a keynote. And I'm also doing that for a book that's coming out in April. But with the TEDx, I think it was, for me in particular as well, it's that discipline of creating something that's shorter. I mean, I'm aiming at 12 to 13 minutes for my own TEDx talk, and it's doing something that is much more simple, clear, rather than a more elaborate keynote where I go into sort of 5 different areas. And I think the other thing that inspires me, obviously, about doing the TEDx is to raise my profile as a speaker and to get known more. I mean, I know that you did it a number of years ago, and I know a few people who have. And then finally, I think just what a great, fun experience. I've got 15 to 20 people coming to watch me do it, including your good self, Helen. Yeah. And just be a really great experience to have done when I finally come to hang my hat up in years to come and say, it was a good thing to do, really.
Yeah, I think you make some really good points on all of those things. I think a lot of people, maybe they just have it on their goal list because it's something that they want to achieve. But for yourself, you've got a whole concept that you have as part of a keynote, that's based on your area of expertise and is what I call your expert method, which is your 5 areas of survival psychology. You have a book as well around this that's coming out. And that is really key, I think, when people are considering what they want to actually talk about, and creating something that is shorter, absolutely, because it is a shorter talk when you do a TEDx, but it's still aligned with something that you are passionate about, that you've got lots of experience in, and the legacy as well, as you say, for years to come. It's going to be up on YouTube, and it does create instant reach. Once it goes up on that TEDx YouTube channel, 38 million subscribers, boom, that's a phenomenal amount of reach, which, you don't necessarily get with a keynote unless the keynote actually goes viral. So I think a lot of people would resonate, and it's some really good reasons to put it on your goal list, as well as having fun with it and just enjoying it as well.
I'm trying to keep a focus on doing that.
I know that it can because you're getting to crunch point. Obviously, when this goes out, you will have done it, but it's getting to a crunch point in that process. But what didn't you know about TEDx before our time together in terms of what it was about?
I didn't know a huge amount at all, in a way. I mean, I knew about TED Talks, but I didn't know a huge amount about TEDx as a franchise. I didn't know that you had to fit in with a particular theme for the event, and all of these kind of criteria. So obviously, I worked with you for a number of reasons, Helen, but your experience of TEDx was part of that, because if you don't know much about something, better to talk to somebody that does know something about it. So yeah, I didn't know a lot, really.
And again, I think that's very common, because it is kind of like, it's not sort of there's no manual out there of this is what you need to do, this is how it works, and I think it's deliberately like that. Also, as you've mentioned, it's kind of like a franchise. It's an independently run event, and so each person that's applied for that license, or a team that's applied for that license, will have their own theme. They'll have their own parameters. It's completely voluntary run. And so the processes for applying will be different. And so getting clarity on those sorts of things can really help boost confidence and understand a little bit more about what's involved. But I'd really like to spend some time talking about your idea worth spreading. Because for anybody that wants to land a TEDx talk, this is the absolute key. If you're thinking about applying, first of all, it's about getting that idea worth spreading nailed. So tell us a bit about your idea worth spreading.
Yeah, well, as I say, it has to fit in with the theme of the event. And the theme of the event is adversity, well, creativity through adversity, really. So for me, in my particular talk, and my idea of spreading is around the fact that most of us don't appreciate how much our survival thinking is playing out for us on a regular basis in a number of ways. And in relation to that talk, it's the fact that our survival thinking can exaggerate, distort problems, imagine problems that don't even exist. So you have to, first of all, manage all that to be able to release your creativity, because your creativity will be blocked by that. When problems, challenges come along, your survival thinking will potentially be hijacking you in all those sorts of ways. So my basic idea is, to be creative, you need to first of all manage the more destructive side of your thinking to give you that space and freedom to be creative. And that's the crunch of it, really.
And a lot of people might think, well, I have expertise in a certain area. There's this particular theme. How on earth do I make that fit the theme? Right. And I think that's actually quite a key step. It's providing that bridge between what you might talk about in a keynote talk, which you have on your 5 areas of survival psychology, and how you then look at that from a different angle in relation to the theme. And if we take that particular theme, creativity through adversity, on first glance, we might think, how do I talk about survival psychology and creativity? But actually, there's a real clear link that you've just described there.
Yeah.
And it's about looking at it through a different lens. And the theme of the event will be different no matter, where you go or what you do. But there will be a link, unless it's completely, specialist, there will be a link that you can find. And so when you found that link, it was about looking at the talk from that perspective and understanding that you wouldn't be using a keynote structure in a 12 to 15 minute talk. But as you said, looking at key problems associated with adversity and what happens when we have an adversity mindset, or we look at life with an adversity lens, and what happens and what needs to happen to think more creatively.
Yeah.
So it's so exciting that you're doing this. I'm so excited to actually come and see you do it. But what was the, because I know everybody has different journeys in terms of how they landed the talk. So I work with lots of different clients, and for some, the process is much easier than others. And for some, the process isn't all that clear. So for some TEDx events, there isn't a clear process, or there isn't a clear website or a application process. What was the journey to actually pitch for your talk like for you?
It actually a lot smoother than I anticipated, because there was an application process where I had to put in an idea of what my talk would be about, and how it would fit with the theme, and how I could help promote the event and get people there, and all just various questions. And I know you gave me some support doing that, Helen. But actually, that went really smoothly for me. I'm not going to say everyone's experience might necessarily be the same, but literally, I put the application in, and not long after, I heard that I'd been picked as one of the speakers for the event. So, for me, it was a good journey, really.
And I will say, in my experience, not just because we work together and all those sorts of things, having that clarity in your communication, in how to approach and what you would say, I think goes a long way in a decision maker and a TEDx event curator pricking up their ears to listen to actually your idea.
Yeah.
Having been a curator myself and receiving applications, the ones that really stood out to me were the ones where somebody is clearly articulating their idea worth spreading, and how that idea worth spreading fits in with the theme, and how that idea worth spreading is going to benefit the audience, the TEDx audience.
Yeah.
I think where people make mistakes, maybe not with, they don't have the knowledge in the first place, is to just put it in application from their own perspective, without explaining how there is a link to the theme, why they're right to give the talk, or how it's going to benefit the audience.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that you had that experience, and that after you got a yes, you then went into the preparation stages.
I'm still in it.
Yeah, and you're still in it. Yeah. So just if you could just share for people listening, what has that looked like for you in terms of prep?
Yeah, I think it's that continual refinement of the content and the structure, with the help of you and other people. I mean, I think there's a danger in putting it out to too many people, but getting some people that you trust that will give you some feedback as you're putting it together, the whole structure of it, and then recording it and putting it out to people. So we've had, I don't know whether this is normal, we have had one online rehearsal, and then we've got our first face-to-face rehearsal in a couple of weeks. And I've also done a rehearsal with somebody else who's one of the other TEDx speakers in the group, and I've got one of those tonight, funnily enough, with a different one. So there's different ways you can, because obviously there's the putting together the talk, the content, the structure. There's thinking about visuals. So I've used a few slides, not many. Some people don't use any at all. And then this, I think the biggest task for me now is not meddling around with the talk too much now, because I think I've got a good talk. It's nailing the delivery. And for me, I mean, the live one that I'll be doing is 2 months' time, just over 2 months' time. So it's getting ready for that, really.
Yeah. I think what you're very good at doing, Tony, is actually seeking feedback, because you do this with a number of things. You've done this with your book. You've done this with your talk, with numerous talks actually, and I think getting those different viewpoints is really, really beneficial. However, as you've quite rightly put, there comes to a point where it's kind of overpainting the picture in terms of what to put in it, and then once you've got that structure nailed and you've delivered it a few times and you're feeling more confident with that content, not from a memorized scripted perspective, it's about how you are actually delivering it, because Some people may or may not know you only have a small red dot to stand in when you are delivering your talk. You can't pace the stage like a tiger, which is a good thing in some respects because you're confined to the red dot for cameras and angles and all of those sorts of things. So it's how you actually take up space with using your hands, with using the visuals, with using your tone and the way that you're actually delivering, with your pace and how you're injecting energy into different parts of the talk that really do pack a punch. Because again, people may not know that it's mainly a one-way type of talk. There's minimal interaction with a TEDx talk. It's not like a keynote where you might be asking people to give you words or give you feedback or do a 2-minute exercise. You are delivering for that amount of time. And so it's about how can I sprinkle magic? And you're doing absolutely amazing with your practice. And it's really great to hear. You're also getting support and supporting the other speakers as well. I haven't actually heard of that happening.
Yeah, it's a nice community that the group of people, and one of them has put together a little promo video of us, and so it's a nice little community that's developing. To be fair,
yeah, it's awesome. So, what do you want this talk to achieve? How do you want this talk to help people with this topic, with this idea we're spreading? What do you want people to walk away knowing, feeling, or doing differently?
Yeah, I think it's first of all, actually primarily an awareness piece. I think that for people to gain a greater understanding of the fact that even though the origins of our species were preoccupied with physical survival, that in modern life we are looking at the survival of our self-esteem, our ego, and so we're continually scanning our environment for potential threats, but we look inwards for vulnerability, for flaws, and what have you. And I think that I want people to gain a greater awareness of what's going on there, because from awareness comes strength, really. The phrase I've started using is, people may well have heard the phrase, feel the fear and do it anyway. For me, it's about understanding the fear first, because I think from understanding comes greater power, and then you can manage and control that. But if you don't, then it's going to hijack you and trip you up throughout different aspects of your work life and your personal life. So
It totally is. It's a really important topic. So it's awareness. And I think a lot of people think, oh, what can we do in 15 minutes? How can we change someone's life with our words in 15 minutes? Well, that's the beauty of TED. It can be that one golden nugget that an audience member is going to resonate with, one story that you've told in that talk, one message that you're delivering on this topic that's really going to resonate with them and make them maybe think a little bit differently. And it's that ripple effect. And the more people that watch that talk, the more people can become aware of what you're helping them with from this particular angle, from your particular area of expertise, which has a huge impact, massive impact, and can change people's lives. So how else, Tony, are you helping people? So I like to talk about thought leader messages and getting known as a thought leader in your area of expertise. And you're certainly doing that. You're absolutely doing that in terms of your social media presence and the things that you're sharing, particularly on LinkedIn, the book that you have written in the past and the one that you are launching, which is around this particular topic. Tell us a little bit more about how you are currently helping people, apart from those things, with your thought leader message.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of my work's one-to-one, to be honest. So I work with heads of companies, CEOs, leaders within companies. And I help them with their skills, developing strategy plans, all those kind of things. But often the elephant in the room is we all have challenges with our thinking. And so building trusting relationships with individuals is a good way to help them process some of the thinking that's going on with them, whether it's survival orientated thinking or not really. So there's an element to that in the one-to-one work. And as you said, I do go out, I'm out doing keynotes. I did a session for an organisation yesterday on managing defensive thinking and moving into growth thinking. Then I've got another one with an organisation tomorrow talking about this very topic, and been out doing the keynote recently physically. So that's a a good way of both sharing the knowledge, but starting to see how it lands with people, so you gain a better understanding of how you can improve the messaging and make it more effective for people, really. And as you said, my big challenge at the moment is writing the book that's coming out April 11th, which has been it's a great exercise to, I think, for all of, well, many of us really, if you look to be a thought leader in a space, it's good to actually bring, like I touched on right at the beginning, bring together your thinking in a more cohesive way, really, and pull it all together and start to see how it all completely joins up. And doing the book has been a good part of that for me, and hopefully will help the people who read it understand how the different aspects of sort of manifestations of survival thinking can link together as well in their own world. So, yeah.
And I've seen a glimpse, a little sneak peek of
You
the
have.
content of that book. And what I will say about that is it really does break down these 5 key areas. Are you able to just list off the 5 areas for us?
Yeah, so the way that I talk about it manifesting is, first of all, imposter syndrome. I'm not a big fan of people saying they've got a syndrome, but people have related to the term for years, and it seems to be much more prominent of late. So survival thinking, survival psychology can come out with imposterism. Then you've got the challenge of defensive mindset, people going defensive in a whole number of ways to protect, I say often protecting their own self-esteem, maybe. Then you've got the challenge of ego in all sorts of ways that can either be damaging to an individual themselves when they get too wrapped up in ego, or it can be damaging to other people. And then you've got negative self-talk. We have thousands of thoughts a day, and often they're not the most helpful. And a lot of it more pessimistic in nature because of the very reasons I was touching on with our survival mentality. And finally, what I'm calling group behaviour, which is the way group dynamics can play out in life, in organisations, things like us and them, silo behaviour, those kind of things, discrimination in all of its forms. So you've got the 5 areas there. And again, it's about understanding them more and how they can trip you up. But my intention with the book as well, which you've seen, Helen, is to give people some ideas on the way that they can either shift their thinking or some practical solutions to, and hopefully not hugely complex ones, but things that people can do relatively easy to move themselves out of, those 5 areas when they find themselves in them, really, and help move other people out of them as well.
Yeah. And as you know, I've got real synergies with this because of my interests with evolutionary psychology and
Totally.
how our ancestors survived and their survival behaviours and how that manifests in the modern day. And this is exactly what we're talking about here. It's how those ancient mechanisms that served us then are showing up in the workplace, in our business, in our relationships, and how we can be more aware of what can trigger those things, how we can unleash those blockers to be able to live more harmoniously, work more productively, and avoid those things tripping us up. So I can't wait for that book to come out. And as I say, the TEDx talk is an angle on this, but you also have a keynote that explores this in more detail on the specific 5 areas of survival psychology. So I just love hearing about it. And so you've got some fab things coming up then. You've got the launch of the book. You've got the TEDx coming out. Anything else that's happening next for you?
I guess for me, the big things are the TEDx talk in January, the book coming out in April, and continuing to work on and refine the keynote with the kind support and help of your good self, Helen. It was like you and I were connected across the ether somewhere that I needed to work with you, I think, because it's been a brilliant help, but also, as you say, you and I, and you have, academic experience of this area. So it's been really great to work with somebody who is excited about the topic and has knowledge themselves, really. So, yeah, that's my journey. I think it'll be great to get to the point where the TEDx talk is out there, the book's out there, and some of the harder work is then done, and I can actively engage with individuals and groups of people on sharing the messaging and continue on the journey with that, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really, really great example of looking at a cohesive strategy to do with your thought leader message and how that's unfolding in all aspects of your business, including the TEDx. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing. Now, obviously, we're recording this now, but I will be joining you for your TEDx talk in January. So I will record a little snippet there. But before we end today, I ask all of my podcast guests on Words That Change Lives one last question, which is, what words have changed your life?
Yeah, in all honesty, I read a book called New Earth by Eckhart Tolle in 2013. Funnily enough, I've picked it up again recently, partly through research, but partly just wanted to reconnect with it. And I've got to be honest, I was going through a pretty tough time around about then as well. And I think that whether it's survival thinking or, as I was saying, we all have those thousands of thoughts every day, we can identify too closely with those thoughts. And what Eckhart Tolle's book did for me, there was one particular phrase or concept in it where he talks about being the watcher. And that is about that ability we have as human beings to observe our own thinking, and through detaching from it and observing it from a more detached place, lessening the power of it and realizing that those thoughts don't have to be you. They're not your identity, and you can make choices whether you go with them or you don't go with them. So be the watcher would be my phrase, I think.
I really like that. It's so powerful. And actually, on my journey, that was one thing. It was communicated differently than that. It was with an analogy of the boat and the anchor, that you are the anchor at the bottom of the ocean, and your emotions are like the weather patterns on the surface, and the boat gets chopped and changed. But you can observe those emotions and they will pass like clouds and weather patterns in the sky. It's the same thing, right? You can observe it from a detached place, and it's easier said than done, right? But
Definitely.
a really, really, really powerful thing to keep in mind. Thank you for sharing that with me, Tony, and thank you for coming on Words That Change Lives. So, Tony, we are now out the other side, and you have just delivered your TEDx talk. Firstly, congratulations. And secondly, how do you feel?
Helen, I think I'm still slightly, it's been a few days, I think I'm still sort of slightly riding the wave, really, because it went better than I could have hoped, really. So I made a couple of slight mistakes, one that nobody would have noticed, one was nothing consequential, but the delivery of it was just, I walked off and I just thought, you nailed that, really. I thought I did a really good job, and the feedback has been so positive after from so many people. But yeah, I'm just really pleased with how it went, really pleased, and sort of excited to see the video now, and to send and get over people, because obviously I had quite a few people there supporting me, probably about 25 to 30 people, but there's obviously a hell of a lot of people interested to see it who weren't there. So I'm looking forward to people seeing it as well.
Yeah, no, I've seen the feedback online from you sharing your initial thoughts and the people that were there and the praise you've received. And it's so quite right as well. I think I mentioned to you that it's testament to your approach, your hard work, your dedication to the process, your preparation, the structure that you put into the talk. And it's also great to hear that you ultimately enjoyed the experience, right?
Well, I wanted to do that. And also, I have to say, I've had an exceptional coach throughout the whole process, from applying through, doing the application, which was blimey, about 10 months ago now, to putting the talk together, to thinking about how to deliver it, all of those things. So thank you, Helen, because it wouldn't have been the talk or delivery it was without your help and support on the way.
Been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to see it up on that TEDx YouTube channel, because really that's kind of where the journey continues. It's not over, it's just starting, right?
Much work to be done. I'm already starting to think that through. What I'm currently looking to do is get quotes and testimonials from people who were there to help me promote what in the TEDx video. You know, that's an important thing for me at the moment. So
Yeah,
pushing
absolutely.
people to give me, even if it's just a short quote, to get quotes from people that I can use when the video's available, because you need to obviously entice people to go and have a look, really.
That's it. That's it. It's all about leveraging that so you can get it out to as many people as possible and
Yeah.
really create that. Well, you've created the idea worth spreading, and now it's time to really spread it.
Yeah. No, indeed. Yeah.
Thanks so much for catching up with me on it, Tony. And I'm so pleased that it went well, and it's very, very well deserved.
And thank you, Helen.
If you have any questions for Tony, you can email me, hello@helenpackham.com, or you can share your thoughts on social media using the hashtag Words That Change Lives, or by tagging me in. If you've got any questions or thoughts around your own TEDx journey and your own TEDx goals, or you'd like to put them to Tony, please do. And I look forward to the next episode of Words That Change Lives. Thanks for listening to Words That Change Lives. Please rate, review and follow on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really means the world and helps me to reach more people so that we can all harness the power of our words and change lives for the better.